right. Hey, folks. I am excited. I've got a video interview with my aunt, Bonita. This was supposed to come out in February in honor of Black History Month, but we had a little mix-up. I was planning to interview her for a podcast, and I didn't communicate that very well. She thought we were just going to have an interview, and when she found out that it was a podcast, then she thought, oh, I need a little more time. And then so we planned to just interview, and then I would write a post out of it. Well, then when we actually did the interview, she felt comfortable, felt good, and said, hey, you can use this however you want. So I ended up going back through editing a lot because it had a bunch in it that was unnecessary because I did not have a podcast frame of mind, and the quality is horrible. I apologize for the bad quality, the bad mic, the bad even camera and lighting. Even this is kind of bad. But anyways, I liked the interview so much that I wanted to share it with you anyway. So this will be for March and February, discussing racial issues. My aunt is a black lady who grew up in the Chicago, Freeport area of Illinois, and her mom is from the South, and so has a lot of firsthand experience about racial tensions that we discuss and we draw from in our discussion. So I'm excited to share that with you. I will be uploading this probably in the middle of March. It took a long time to edit. And then I'll be sharing a shorter snippet for the public viewing on the blog as well. So hope you enjoy. Sorry about the bad video and sound quality, but I think you should still get a lot out of it. We discuss white privilege. We discuss what it's like to grow up as a black girl. We discuss politics. We discuss some movies that are good to get a good handle on racial issues. We discuss adopting people of other races, and so I think you'll enjoy it.
Well, thanks for being willing to do this. I should have made it clear I didn't mean to freak you out with the podcast thing.
I was like, oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah, no, I've thought about it for a couple of years now, and different people keep saying, oh, you should start a podcast. And so this year, that's kind of one of my goals, is to start one. And I thought, oh, well, maybe this could be the start of it, but we'll do something else.
Well, let's just see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'll let you. Let's just see how it goes.
But yeah, I've written some about, I'm trying to think what I've written about racial issues and so forth. I haven't done a whole lot, but it's one of those things, like there's some topics where I write and like everybody's appreciative that I write about it. And then there's some topics that I write that like it's about a split 50-50. Some people are really appreciative, somebody's finally writing about it, and then other people are kind of clueless, like, oh, this doesn't exist or whatever. And so I've wanted to explore it more, and even some things, racial issues, gender, sexuality, that's a big one these days. And I'm getting more and more friends of that, well, either of different ethnicities or like that struggle with same-sex attraction and stuff like that. And so this year, one of my goals that I wanted to do is just give more, instead of me writing about or talking about it, just give more space to those actual people to share their stories. And so I, excuse me, thought I'd start with my aunt.
Wow, it's an honor. So what do you want to talk about? So what's on your heart?
Oh, well, you can go wherever you want. Yeah, just tell me your story. I was thinking about this. I don't know that I've ever, well, Evan and I were talking a little bit at Ellis's wedding, and he was telling me some stuff there, and the last, especially the last 2 years, but really ever since moving to California, issues of race and our own, I think my own as a white person, my own kind of obliviousness to some of the prejudice, but even just like complete ignorance of how different things I say or have experienced come across to
Mm-hmm.
to other people of other ethnicities. And so, yeah, when I was talking with Evan, it just got me to thinking. It's like, I don't know that I've ever really heard Bonita's story, like what it was like growing up as a black, you mentioned your story's different than the mainstream, and I've always gotten that sense, like, you guys aren't Black Lives Matter people, and at least I don't know. The impression I've gotten sometimes is that you guys are more Republican than I am even, and
Probably true, probably.
and
Probably.
so I'm just curious what all you meant by that, and just what your story is. Like, go ahead and just tell me your story.
Well, I guess because of just my interest and who I am. I mean, my mom was brought up in Jim Crow. My mom was born in 31 in Deer Park, Alabama. So
okay.
she dealt with, so she was like in rural Southern community.
Yeah.
Her mom was a domestic, and so she often took my mom with her to work. And so she, of course, she traveled. They migrated to Illinois in 1946.
Okay.
And so they moved to Freeport, and at that point, I mean, so my mom dealt with racism, so she always had. So she's both. They were brought up in the South. So coming to Illinois, they thought things would be different, and it really wasn't.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And so for me, being, so I say all that to say that, I was brought up not only as a black person, but a black person whose parents dealt with, whose mother dealt with heavy racism in the South, and we saw no difference, a very minimal difference in the North. So, but my mother, I guess we could call her almost like a Renaissance woman, and her mother as well, because they not only, they felt that education and was hugely important in order to succeed, that they were also entrepreneurs. So they were always very motivated people that always thought they worked within the system to try to better themselves. So, I mean, and also, did whatever they had to do.
Yeah.
So for me, and so my mom, so I was born, I'm the last of 6. So my oldest brother actually is 70.
Oh, okay.
And I'm 4. And so, so I was at the tail end of everything. Yeah. But my brothers went through the whole 60s civil rights movement with the Black Power, Black Panthers, and all of that stuff, my older ones.
Yeah.
So, but for me personally, I was kind of like the one that was kind of like I don't want to say a Renaissance, or just kind of like a little bit different, because my mom loved all types of music. So she exposed us to, everything from opera to country music. So that was my end. So when I grew up, we sang in the church. We were always, we were brought up in the church. We sang in the church. And so for me, my natural bend was toward the arts. So that already kind of skewed a little bit. When I say my story's a little bit different, that already skewed me a little bit differently than most people.
So that's not, sorry. Like, arts among the black community isn't a common thing?
Well, the direction that I took.
Oh, okay.
Classical arts. This and music, that's always a part. Music is our language. Yeah. One of our languages. But for me to skew off to go into like more specifically like opera or classical music was just a little bit very, very different. And then also for me, so when I was brought up on the east side of Freeport initially. Okay. Which is the predominantly black side of Freeport. It's on the east side. But then when I was 8 years old, my mom, being a single mom, actually bought her first house on her own, which was in a completely white section of Freeport.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that changed everything for me, because not only did I change schools, my whole friend network changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then I kind of started getting bullied because I lived on a certain area of town, and my brothers were able to, they were able to maintain their black identity, but I was saw as different.
Oh, okay. So bullied from other black people or other white people?
Black people.
Black people, because of where you moved to.
Moved to, and the way I talked.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. But I was still black, and I had my black church friends.
Yeah.
Even then, it kind of was because I moved to that different school. Things were very, very different for me at that point. And I was also, I loved school. I excelled in school. So I was just a little bit of a different person.
Yeah.
And I fit the norm, the cultural norm.
Yeah. 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 Huh. So when you look at your growing up experience, the pain that has to do with your ethnicity, your race, would come from your own people more than...
Okay.
Or how?
No.
Oh, okay.
It came from both.
From both.
It came from both.
Yeah.
Because then when we moved to the black area, at first the kids were scared of us. I mean, we had the police called on our family because they said our dog was malnutritioned. So they had the police call on our dog, even though this dog is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Or like when we were clearing out the brush in the backyard, we had the police called on us because we were burning tree stumps.
Yeah.
So we faced it, at least I did, from both sides.
Yeah. And that's stuff that like other people could do the same thing and nobody would worry about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because we can get into this a little bit later too, but just one of the questions I have is like, how would you, because I'm trying to think how to ask this. I've talked with people, like other friends, white friends of mine, about white supremacy, and I don't know if that's the right word, or white privilege, maybe that's a better word. And they sometimes react to that because they don't see it. And the reason I see it is because, so I do a lot of handyman work here in LA, and I can show up at somebody's door and instantly sense that they trust me, they're comfortable with me, they're okay with me coming to do the work when they're gone. And as we look at the projects or whatever, probably every month I have a customer who talks about, like, I had some Mexicans do some work and they it wasn't good or whatever. And there's this clear bent, like, I haven't even proven myself as a skilled worker, and they're already complaining about the last person to me, and seem like they trust me, and many, at least the Mexicans that I know of, actually are probably more skilled than I am in the construction. And so there is kind of a, like, Mexicans are very relational, so they go about their work a little more slowly, but what I'm asking is, like, what are, like, those things? How would you help someone see those things? Like the fact that you get, I guess, kind of profiled for burning stumps. I have a friend in college who a couple months ago got pulled over. He's Filipino. I've never experienced that. I've gotten away with illegal driving habits and not gotten pulled over. And, like, I don't think about how that might be because I'm white, and I don't know if it is. But then there's times where like a black person or some other ethnicity does something, they're not even necessarily illegal, and people pull them over or call them in or something. Like, how would you, do you know how to help someone see that?
It's hard. It really, really is hard because, I mean, okay, as a Christ follower, we want to see everything through the lens of love.
Yeah.
And that, you know, we are all created as equally under God. But it's really difficult to explain to people that unless they actually experience it with you, it's hard to explain. It's hard for them to realize that. That has been my experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that it has been interesting. I have had a couple incidents where people have said, well, wow, I mean, she was here first, clearly, you know, standing in line.
Yeah.
And they automatically go to the white person, even though it was clearly that I was standing in the line longer. That salesperson went to the white person first. And, you know, and they will say, and that's about the only way I can say when that natural gravitation is to the other race.
Yeah.
That's probably about the best way I can explain it unless without experiencing it.
Yeah.
Or just, because there's a different, people will say, what's the difference between white privilege and racial profiling? See, it gets into muddy situations and clarifications and definitions.
Yeah.
But unless you are there to experience it, I think it's hard for people to really understand it.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
So, so basically, I kind of had a situation for me personally where being in a person in the fine arts.
Okay.
So I was a little bit of a different egg anyway.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ghetto or pro anything. I kind of was my own bohemian type of a person anyway, but acutely aware of who I was and how society perceived, how I thought society perceived me.
Yeah.
So there were many instances where, I knew for a fact that things were not afforded to me because now, even though I was talented, I had the grades or whatever, but because of the color of my skin. I know of just my first probably hard hitting one was a friend of mine who was Jewish. She wanted me to sing at her bat mitzvah.
Okay.
In the program. And her parents told her that no, that would not be allowed because I was black.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, you know,
this was you were like, how old is that? 13, 14?
Oh, 13, 14, yeah.
Somewhere there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A school friend of mine.
Yeah.
And, or just even like I was not afforded, I mean, there were situations where like in auditioning in high school where I would be up for a lead, but probably didn't get the lead because I wasn't the right color.
Yeah. Yeah, wow.
Or, you know, I had the vocal ability, I had the talent. So there was always that pressure there, but then always having to always feel like I had to be better than the next person in order to prove myself as equal. They call it the black tax.
The black tax. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is like I'm just thinking of another like a white 13 or 14-year-old who doesn't get the lead or who can't sing would probably right away go to. Well, I don't know what they'd go to, but I would have gone to like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I didn't sing good. I don't have as good a voice. Mm-hmm. And usually because it's pretty clear that the other person has a better voice. This is something where you feel you are better, like you're better fit. Mm-hmm. And it's clear that you didn't get it because it's of the color. Mm-hmm. What does that do to like a 13 or 14-year-old girl?
It's painful. Yeah. It's extremely painful. You doubt yourself. You begin to, I mean, you know, thankfully I had a mother who was very, very strong.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is society, but that's not who you were and that's not who God created you to be.
Yeah.
But it does leave you feeling very insecure and very jaded about the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's where the seeds of it really were planted, you know, knowing that. Because even like when I was telling you about growing up, I just thought about this story about when we first moved into our neighborhood. The there was a group of kids that were just phenomenal. They're like, hey, new kids, new blood, let's play.
Yeah.
And we were the friends before they left, and they had a pool, and they would invite us to come over to swim in their pool. Well, the little girl that was one street over or across the street from them, they saw us coming, that we were in the pool, and they said, oh, no, I'm not swimming with them.
Oh, wow.
And she left. Yeah. And, you know, it was, I'm just thinking about just, you not only get that anger, you're bitter, but you're also, you're feeling humiliated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know, and even though, like I said, but by that time I was 14 and knowing who I was as far as like my abilities, realizing, you know what, it is what it is. And I'm probably going to face this for the rest of my life. So
yeah,
I just have to be better than.
Yeah.
And just take pride in who I am and keep it moving.
Yeah.
And just keep going.
So
keep going.
Explain some of the from a black person's, and then also as at least having biracial children, explain the way society perceives the two, and how you'd wish society would see it. Does that make sense?
Sure, it does. It does. In a perfect world, we would just see each other as just God's creation. We are just human beings.
Mm-hmm.
But it's easier for people to put people into categories. It's for me, it all, I know it gets into this whole political stuff, but I think it all boils down to power. And that's how actually slavery was instituted, because of the fact that people wanted power. They wanted to be able to produce and to manufacture. And so what do? They capture other people. And I'm talking about from blacks to blacks, from generation to generation, in order for them to do the menial work. But once it crossed over to the Atlantic, and we're here in the United States, we were a commodity. We were dehumanized.
Yeah.
And so even though we have made great strides civil rights way, we get into the whole fact that America was built on a system of slavery.
Yeah.
And so in societies, there is always going to be that tension.
Yeah.
It's not going to change. I'm just being, as Dan calls me, I'm a pragmatist. I'm just pragmatic about that. It's just not going to change. And so you're always going to have people in power in order to move forward with their agenda, to perceive people in different categories. Mm-hmm. So maneuvering around that, how do I see it? I just know that no matter, based on the color of my skin, I'm always going to have to strive and be better than the next person in order to be seen as equal.
So do you wish people just didn't see your color?
No, I don't wish that, because that's part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I no, because I wish they would appreciate my color, appreciate the cultural differences and what I bring to the table.
Yeah.
As a black person, the fact that I'm able to see, for me, I can living in both worlds, I can see, or just the world, I can see, especially married to a white man, I can see how he views things, but then I can also see, that's how you view it, but this is actually how it's going to play out based on society's norms.
Yeah.
So no, I don't wish we were colorblind. I just wish there was a deep appreciation for what each person in each culture brings to the table.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's interesting. I'm in a class right now that's studying, the name of the class is Philosophical and Historical Foundations of Western Civilization. And so it's basically a church history class, but it's also like it covers obviously philosophy, like the beginnings of Christian theology and so forth. And one of the books we're reading right now is The Lost History of Christianity, which talks about the the how like basically all church history took a Western bent. Like you hear about European Rome, church history in Rome, but how like as the church was just getting started and small things were happening in Europe, there were huge, thriving Christian communities in Asia and Africa. And like when you study, I can't remember the exact quote, but it talked about how like when he delved into history in Africa, he was quoting somebody, but just coming to the realization that you don't hear about church planting, like pioneer church planting in Africa. Like this was already something very existent. Like so, you have the history of what's his name that explored Africa, David Livingstone, and so that's kind of pioneer missionary. We label that as pioneer missionary, but there was actually Christian communities that existed long before that. But the documented history is Western history, and also a lot of those communities were killed off by Muslims and so forth. So some of them don't exist anymore. But yeah, there's this strong sense of, so take someone like me who's born in 91, smack in the middle of all this. I have no clue until I'm 25 or so, like the dynamics that existed long before me. Even when I'm learning, like I learn about, I want to say JFK. Just celebrated his, what's his name? Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King.
Yeah. You learn about guys like him or Malcolm X and stuff in history and all that, but like, well, even that it's a Becca schooling, so it's from a white perspective, and yeah, there's all this history that is written from a white perspective, focuses on what has happened in the white world, and the other ethnicities are just kind of neglected. I don't intentionally neglect. I look at my cousins or my friends that are Hispanic or Asian, and like I care about them as people. And I think a lot of, especially when I think in our Mennonite world, especially in my generation, I think older generations it would be more just naivety. But in my generation, like people care about other people, but we're just kind of clueless as to how the biases bend us. It's like blind spots. Like you don't even see this other world out there.
Because you live in a very closed world, a very closed environment, a very closed culture.
Yeah.
And the thing is, which is, I think is fabulous, that you're taught to see the good in people. And I think when you are exposed then to that totally different wide world, it is a bit of a shock to realize that other people do think and feel differently than you do. And then we have that on within even our own culture, within even our own Black culture. So
yeah. So how can what made me want to address this right now is the fact that February is Black History Month. And so like let's go down that line a little bit. Like how can we appreciate what Blacks have offered? What are things that the Black community, and even like as I was writing to you and stuff, I was trying to find ways to word it, because so I say, how can the church welcome Blacks? That sounds like the church is white and we're welcoming in Blacks.
Because
yeah, because the church is white. At least the churches that I've been a part of. So let's start with, what have Blacks offered and then we'll talk about like what they could offer. Like, has the church been shaped by blacks? What good has the black community offered? Does that make sense?
Within our own community, we offer family, we offer love, we offer support within our own community. In the past, it's been that way.
Yeah.
According to a lot of the white churches, all we can do is be worship leaders because we can sing.
Interesting. Yeah.
We can't really preach because we really aren't critical thinkers.
Really? So has that been said?
It's been implied.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's been implied. Unless you go to seminary or yeah. You really.
Yeah.
You can be a worship.
Be a worship leader. So in your church, if like could a white person who didn't go to seminary become a pastor or teacher and preach?
In the black church? Or are you talking about the church that I attend now?
The church you attend now.
Okay. Probably. I mean, it's a little bit. It's an age. Well, the roots are of Assemblies of God.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So it would have. Yeah. Definitely. I think I don't.
But you're saying a black person could not. They would have to have a degree.
Yeah, we probably have to have a degree or some type of extensive experience, proven record.
Yeah.
That's when you get into the black tax. You have to prove you have to be more than the other person.
Yeah.
The person could have less credentials than you do, but you have to be more.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be considered equal.
Yeah. And I can think of many Mennonite churches that there's like one, maybe two black families, and so the church would feel like they're a multi-ethnic church, but he'll never be preacher or pastor, Not to mention any. I mean, in the Mennonite world, at least the conservative Mennonite world, then there's we'd never have a female worship leader either. So there's that whole topic too. But yeah, so in the black community, you guys offer family and support. Tell me, like, how did I know, like, just the surface, like, how did it come that there are all black churches? And I guess this is true of almost any ethnicity. There's a tendency to be all one or the other. So, like, in a black church, if I came and started attending as a white person, would I feel anything, or how? Other than the fact that everybody'd probably move a little bit more than I do.
You know what? You would be very surprised at how welcoming people could be.
Yeah.
I mean, they would be kind of suspect at first, like, why is he attending here? And after, and if you're just honest and they can sense your spirit and like, well, yeah, they would love on you just like anyone else. You will become one of the members.
One of the members.
I mean, I experienced a lot of that growing up. I mean, we'd have a number of people that would attend the church. I mean, usually they were probably more, I shouldn't say, they usually were dating black people or somehow assimilated into the black culture and just kind of came along with, and but they were part of the family. They were just part of the family.
Yeah.
Now, when I started attending, Park Hills. Okay, when I attended, the first church I attended was a white church was while I was in college.
Okay.
No, I take that back because Dan and I we started kind of going to crossroads. It was New Covenant then. So, yeah, but so they were accepting, but it was younger people. Now, when I went to Park Hills, where the pastoral staff was definitely older, generation older, there was a lot of I didn't feel very welcome. I'll say that. Yeah. I knew people that went there, but like just going to around the building of the church trying to find somewhere to send my kids, I had someone ask me if they could escort me around the church.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I escort you, and it was an older gentleman.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I was watched for a period of time before, and because I knew other people there at the church, that made it a little bit easier for me. But then other black people that came in weren't quite like me.
Okay. Yeah. So a black church would offer the same community support, family to whoever once they sense the trust and so forth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so there's cultural differences. Well, I guess it's cultural difference. Because I could so many white people probably don't even try to go to a black church because whites are way more, I don't know how you describe it, like we're not as holistic in our worship or
reserved.
More reserved. And so like that can make you feel uncomfortable. But you're saying we might miss, because it's interesting. One of the biggest things I hear about people from their churches, all white churches, white people in white churches, is they don't sense community, don't sense family, by not allowing our reserved, stable corners to be nudged and loosened. We might miss out on some family and community that could be there.
I mean, you think about it. I mean, the church, that's like the pillar. It used to be the pillar of the community.
Yeah.
We not only learned, education, we learned skill, we learned how to worship together. I mean, it was basically your family outside of your own nuclear family.
Yeah.
Any information that was passed at those times, that you learned about the world around you was at church.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
And so, and if you needed and that's why Martin Luther King was so effective, because at the time the church was the pillar of the society. It was the pillar of the community. It was where everybody connected.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. So those are what are things blacks could offer the church? I don't know if you consider yourself a theologian or not at all, but how could, this is something we talked about in our class last semester a little bit. It's a 5-module class of basically just history and the foundations of Western civilization. And one of the things we talked about is how my prof knows of 2 black theologians that he could read of. That would be from, I forget, maybe in the last 200 years. Are there, how could the black community help shape the church theologically? Is there more space for that today than there was before? Or is that something you can comment on at all?
I'm not a theologian. I'm not a theologian. Yeah, I'm not. I really can't comment on that because I'm not a theologian. I do know though that um, there are a lot of influential. How do I say this? There has to be an openness to. I mean, this sounds so. I'm just going to be really. I'm trying to sugarcoat things. I'm just going to be very, very direct.
Oh yeah.
Okay. We are in a really interesting time because we're still dealing with a lot of. How do I say it? Just white middle class. Preachers in leadership positions that want to hang on to their power and don't want to think outside the box, and they're afraid of letting black ministers in for fear of losing their power, whatever that. I mean, there are a lot of people, it's a fear. It's a fear of losing that identity.
Yeah.
And and you have to be careful too, because everybody has. I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people do have an agenda.
Yeah.
A lot of pastors have agendas.
Yeah.
And especially those that are in leadership positions, they don't want to lose that power.
Yeah.
It's almost like I often equate church leadership as still a business.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sadly, it is.
It really, really is. And you have a lot of people that are afraid, oh, my goodness, if we let more black people in the church, we're going to, we want to be very, very careful. We want to be careful to maintain our nice white identity. We can let a few of them in to say, that covers us for not saying that we're not racist, but we really don't want to let people in that can influence or change the culture of the church.
Yeah. 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 And that's really, that makes a lot of sense. I think it really comes down to an issue. I mean, it's just depravity, really, and men wanting power. Yeah. Let me just ask this, and you can respond however you want. Like, why should Black history matter? Why should Black history matter to anybody?
Because it's the history of the United States. The United States was built on the backs of Black people.
Yeah.
We were brought here to work and to build the United States. Yeah. I mean, it matters. It doesn't matter just one day, 1 month out of the year. It matters every day.
Every day, yeah. Yeah. So how can... Go for it. Did you have more?
I said that's why it's important. I mean, I'm glad that we do have an emphasis on at least 1 month out of the year. But then I think that's why I think the history books do need to, I shouldn't say be rewritten, but I think they need to be clear and realize and show how many Black inventors we've had and the work that the Black people have contributed. I mean, basically, it was built on the backs of Black people.
Yeah, yeah. How could we remember, celebrate, even celebrate, like accept? Celebrate kind of leans towards that once a month or one month a year. But what I'm meaning is how can our lifestyle be more all-inclusive and just accepting? What are some practical things non-Blacks can do to remember and remember the past and appreciate their Black friends on a daily, ongoing basis?
I think it starts with relationships, building relationships with people outside of your own culture, specifically. And reading about Black history. I mean, about Black inventors, about Black philosophers. But it basically starts one-on-one, getting to know other people of other ethnicities. And then once you start digging, you begin to get a feel of their culture, begin to get a feel of the people. And I think that just lends to digging deeper into to their history.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend that a very, very dear friend of mine who's Greek. She was my roommate in college,
mm-hmm.
and we dealt with some racial things with her parents.
Yeah.
But I also learned by living with her and side by side the fact that I began to learn things about her culture and about her people that I began to really, really appreciate.
Yeah.
And understand her culture. And it's one of the most enriching experiences I've ever had in my life.
Wow. Yeah.
So I just think it just starts by just getting to know people of exploring other cultures. Hi, baby. Hi. 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 Oh, my goodness. You look more like your mommy.
Yeah. He doesn't get that very often.
I mean, the red hair. Come on. But I can see Teresa. I can see her.
Teresa's over here too.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
She said, "How's it going?"
Oh, it's good.
Good, good.
Yeah, he's our. Well, I guess every baby is a morning baby, but our other boys kind of sleep in.
Thankfully.
Yeah, the one was up till like midnight last night.
Oh my goodness.
Adrian tends to be our night owl.
I couldn't do it. Oh, I had one. I used to banish him to his room, named Evan.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for thanks for sharing.
I hope I'm not, I'm adding something because, like I said, my story is a little bit different. I've been told that by other Black people. I'm not normal. So.
Yeah. No, and that's like I'm actually hoping to interview some other Black friends who one of them lives in South Carolina, I think. Grew up in Florida, so would have a more immediate Southern flavor experience to it.
Oh, I thought about a story that I had a discussion with being Black and seeing a number of white families. Car just went past my house. Adopting Black children.
Oh.
Conservative families.
Yeah.
That gives me a little bit of pause.
Go into that more.
It's that whole thing of I'm helping this poor Black child, and yet this poor Black child is going to be really confused because you don't know how to take care of her. You don't know how to take care of her. You don't have any idea what the child is going to experience. I'm not against transracial adoption, but I don't know if people are really equipped to or willing to learn about if you're wanting to take this child in, but are you really ready to also embrace their culture as well?
Yeah.
It's something that just came to mind when I was thinking about it. I've seen a number of conservative families taking in Black children, and this is scary.
Yeah.
You try to school them, try to they'll say something, ask me about their hair, and I'm going, well, you're going to need to do this, this, and this, and yet I know they're not going to do it because they think that it shouldn't be that way, but it has to be that way.
Yeah.
That's just a thought that just came to me.
Yeah. I have one more question, just more for the fun of it. What movies are out there that are really good just to give insight or whatever into racial, whether it's Black history or just even racial conflict? We enjoy it, like docudramas. Are you familiar with docudramas? The idea of we love docudramas. We've watched Hidden Figures. I don't know if you've watched that one.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah, we enjoy it. Trying to think of some other ones that I can't think of. I know we've watched several, but what are ones that you can think of?
Okay, the one that is really bad. The language is bad. It really is. I'm going to tell them myself. It's an older one. It's called Bulworth.
Bulworth. I'm trying to think of.
It's Warren Beatty. It came out in the 90s.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite political, racial movies. It stars, it's a movie. It's one that you don't want to. It's just the language is bad.
Yeah,
it's just horrendous. And it talks about how politics and has a race and politics.
Okay.
It's a comedy.
Yeah.
And it's about a liberal politician that goes off the rails.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, he attacks pretty much every Jews, blacks. Yeah. There's some classic quotes there.
Yeah.
Actually, if you go on YouTube, you can find clips of it.
Oh, okay. Bulworth.
Yeah. Bulworth.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of some. There's one I want to see. Well, actually, The Color Purple. That talks about old school.
Oh, okay.
But it's kind of one of those that made me think of my grandparents. What they dealt with.
Okay.
And within the black community. I'm trying to think. Let me think about that, and I'll get back with you on some of those. But those are the two that just pop off the top of my head. I mean, there's certain movies that they're funny because they just have cultural references that are just I can identify with and just laugh because it's just there.
Have you seen the 42 or whatever, the one about Jackie Robinson?
No, not as entirety. I know Dad has it. Yeah, we just haven't watched it in its entirety. We always fall asleep. Okay.
Oh, okay.
We fall asleep during movies.
Yeah.
Unless I go to the theater. Yeah. No, that's one thing I do need to watch it entirety.
Or there's one about Martin Luther King Jr. Forget what it's called though. That we watched. Some of those I'm curious, like how, if they're fairly accurate historically. That's one thing I was curious what you thought of Hidden Figures, because I've heard mixed impressions of the accuracy. Is that the word? Of.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed it.
Oh, I really enjoyed it. And matter of fact, was her name Katherine Johnson is still alive.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, she is. She is, and I think they just recently named one of the buildings at NASA for her.
Okay.
Yeah, she was the mathematician.
Yeah.
Katherine Johnson. I'm trying to think. Oh goodness, there's one about. See, a lot of them don't deal with the current situation. They talk about history. Oh, it was one with, oh my goodness. Is it The Long Walk Home? It's with Whoopi Goldberg and Sissy Spacek.
Okay.
It's an older background.
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, Whoopi Goldberg and Sissy Spacek, that's one. Oh goodness, there's one I'm thinking of right now and I can't think of the name of it. What was, The Butler? The Butler. Aaron's telling me The Butler.
The Butler.
The Help.
The Help. Yeah, that's one we've seen.
Oh, I was just watching that again.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking about my grandmother.
Huh.
Actually, yeah. I think of a story. That one I cried through, The Help, because I remember my mom talking about my grandmother and dealing with. There's a story behind that.
That's pretty much just that's like what your grandmother would have. Dealt with.
Exactly. Yeah, The Butler. Wow. Yeah, Butler and The Help. The Help especially I think about because, The Help The Butler the fact that he always had to. Have you ever seen that one?
The name sounds familiar, but I didn't. When I punched it into YouTube, it didn't.
Yeah, Forrest Whitaker is in that one. The fact that every year he went to ask for a raise and he wouldn't get it.
Yeah.
The Help, that one I sobbed through because I remember my mom telling me a story about she would go to her mom to do domestic, and the kids, they would say, "You're a nigger," and they would say, "You're a nigger," say, "You're a nigger," and and mom would have to say it because otherwise, her mom would possibly lose her job.
Wow. So this is, your mom was going with her mom, and she's playing with other kids, and so, wow, yeah.
Other white kids that were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my mom had she had some, and I think it's hard. If I have a weakness in as far as that would be concerned, that I'm very hypersensitive to certain things because of that. Because my mom lived it.
Yeah.
She lived it, or the fact that her uncle had a car, and they could not believe, and he was from the north. He had a car and he drove it. They just could not believe that black man owned the car, that particular vehicle. Yeah. So there's a lot of stories like that my mom passed on to me, and and then I experienced certain things at stores.
Yeah.
Where, but
well, thanks for taking time to do this today.
Definitely.
I'll definitely probably at least email some more questions or something. And
okay.
Yeah. Tell the rest of your family there hello.
Yeah, you do the same.
I'll do
it's
that.
Good to see you, Asher.
Yeah, you too.
It's good to, and I'm very proud of the work that you're doing, and I'm starting to dive into your book, read your blogs, and just appreciate you. I do read your blogs. I do appreciate them.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, thanks again. Yeah.
All right then. If you have any questions, just give me a call.
I'll do that.
Shoot me. All right then. We'll see you
good.
later.
See ya. Thank you.
All right then. Bye.
Bye.